Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, and sadly, or maybe ecstatically, one of our last editions of 2020. It is December 31st. We are rapidly approaching the new year. I got a bunch to do before we get there. I crammed a bunch of movie viewing in toward the end of December here because a lot of stuff came out late. And I'm now getting to all the reviews we got to get up before we get to the end of the year and my top 10 list. We've so far today talked about Promising Young Woman, one of my favorite films of the year, and features one of my favorite performances of the year from Carey Mulligan. We've also talked about The Vast of Night, which is an Amazon Prime Video movie that is excellent. It was a surprise, a shocker, that also lands up in the top 10 for me. It was a little shake-up late in the game, but one that was just, I was absolutely captivated by it, man. It was there was just a magic to that movie, and if you want to know more about that and my feelings, you can see my review for it right up there. Now, we move to another streaming service movie, and a movie that features two more of my favorite performances of the entire year. And it's a movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler-free, into Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And this is a movie that I've been looking forward to since Chad Boseman's passing. This continues to be tough to watch Chad in movies that are coming out now, after he passed, because he's amazing always. He's always amazing, man. And you got The Five Bloods, which was pretty close to that time, and tremendous performance, easily a contender for a supporting actor nod, but it was one of those things where it was like, I love that performance, I love that it's one of his last ones, but I was hoping that Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, when I saw it on the IMDb above The Five Bloods, I was like, ooh, I hope this is one where like Chad is front and center the whole movie and he is the lead, because as great as he is in The Five Bloods, it's a really minor character because he only takes place in the past, not the present. And Ma Rainey's Black Bottom gave me exactly what I wanted, man. It gave me one of my favorite performances in Chad Boseman's entire career. He blows this thing out of the water in ways that, like, I was an emotional wreck watching this movie, man, because whether you want to or not, when you watch something that Chad has been in, whether it was before he died or after, you just sit there and you have to grapple with the fact that, like, this is a talent that doesn't exist anymore, on in the world. And while you can appreciate, every single time he's out there, it's one of those things, at least for me, like, I still struggle just kind of accepting the fact that, like, we won't get anything else from Chad. And that emotion has a definite impact when you're just watching him on screen in general. Add in all of the emotional elements and beats that are attached to his character, Levy. And like I said, I was just an emotional wreck. This is just a stellar performance, man. I mean, here's a guy who makes you think that he is actually playing that trumpet. And, like, they have a behind the scenes, like a 30-minute behind the scenes thing that I watched that really just added to the tear collection. But it showed some really good behind the scenes stuff. And they were talking about Chad and his commitment. They have, obviously, the guy who plays the horn in the movie, like in this behind the scenes thing, he's like, it's nuts, man. Like, he sat here like day after day after day working with me to get the fingering right. Wanted to make sure the fingering is right. Even if he's not the one that's playing the horn that you hear in the movie, he wanted to make sure it looked right. And that's that level of dedication that everybody who's ever worked with Chad seems to just be in awe of. The way that he just fully commits to a role. And while the physical performance is sublime and impressive, that, like, you really think he's playing the horn, the actual acting and delivery of lines part of the performance is mind-blowing. Levy is a very complicated character. He has a complicated past, he's got a complicated present, and he's got a complicated future. Everything about this character has things that you can get upset or angry or like, come on, really, dude? But at the same time, there are other things that you're like, oh, you're that way because of this. And as you start to peel back all the layers, this character is so layered. And as you peel back all of the layers behind Levy, you end up with something that is very powerful. It's very moving, and something that Chad just knocks out of the ballpark, man. Like, he is on fire from start to finish. Him and Viola Davis both, but they approach it in different ways. Ma Rainey is a force to be reckoned with. Levy is a force that could be reckoned with, but he's not at that level yet. But he's got the fast talking that can hopefully get him there. And that performance is one of the best of the year. For me, it's kind of crazy. Much like I was talking about Carey Mulligan and the female acting race, the male acting race, I think Riz Ahmed and Chad Boseman have given the top two performances that I've seen this year. And then you have Anthony Hopkins, much like Frances McDormand, kind of hiding in the wings because he's got a movie that hit the festival circuit but not the main public yet that we haven't seen. But regardless of all that, you are looking at a potential, there it is, you're looking at a potential Oscar winner in Chad Boseman's performance as Levy. And like I said, it's a powerful, emotional, and it's an experience. The way that Wolf approaches this movie allows for things to feel like an experience, like you're actually at a Broadway show, and a lot of monologues, a lot of dialogue, a lot of lines to nail. Chad nails all of them. Specifically, there's a conversation that he sort of has with God at one point in the movie. That was the moment where I was like, start putting it in the Oscar right now, man. Chadwick Boseman, 2020 Best Actor. Like, mind-blowing. However, on the other side of that stage, we got Ma Rainey. And a powerhouse performance from Viola Davis like I've never seen from her. Look, we know how good Viola Davis is. We know what kind of power she can pack into a performance. And hell, this is a woman who has probably pulled more tears out of my eyes than most individual actors do. She just has that kind of delivery, especially on emotional beats, that can just crush you the way that, the film needs you to feel in that moment. And she's so good at pulling that out of you. But getting her to see her be like a boss diva is so much freaking fun. This movie opens on a tent performance down probably in Alabama or Georgia, somewhere, in the South. And like, talk about just like, boom, bursting onto the scene or the stage or the screen. There's the word, bursting onto the screen. Viola Davis, like, it's a transformational kind of performance, man, because she full on commits. Let's face facts. Ma Rainey, not the easiest on the eyes, and she was certainly a loud, brash woman. And to see Viola commit to all those things, she got some extra padding, built so that, she could have the weight that Ma had. She got the gold teeth put in her mouth. She did everything she could with the greasy makeup and all the things that she had learned about Ma in researching. She wanted to be accurate. That behind the scenes piece I was talking about, they talk about the wardrobe and the makeup people and recreating the 1920s, which, by the way, they do in a crazy, crazy way. That tent scene, it like transports you to a very specific moment in time, and it's wonderful to watch, and the whole movie is. But everything from, you can just see it there, from the style to her dress, and like I said, the makeup, and just the way she carries herself. It was so much fun to watch Viola Davis do that, because we've seen her do powerful roles before, but not like this. And that diva element was a lot of fun to watch, specifically as a woman in the 1920s who could just boss around two old white men. There are some sequences with her manager, Irvin, played by Jeremy Shamos, and the recording studio's owner, Sturdivant, played by Johnny Coyne. Oh my gosh, dude, those scenes are so much fun. And it's one of those things, imagine, we live in 2020 where, let's face facts, folks, things ain't real easy still for people of color. So now imagine putting yourself in the 1920s. and being one of the mothers of blues. Bessie Smith was also a big name back then, and in that little behind the scenes piece, they talked about how like Bessie Smith was the more marketable, she was the more beautiful, she was the easier to introduce you to the audience than Ma was, because she was big and bold and brash and not as beautiful as Bessie was. And what's cool is they had a friendship, but like you are one of the mothers of blues and a singer that commands so much of this that you just own the world, right? I mean, there are so many moments where she's dictating these two guys around and watching them when she's not there and how they talk, and then when she shows up, how that shifts. So fun. But like, I mean, whether she's telling him to fix her car because something happened to it, or what, there's no soda here, go get me a soda, like whatever it is, she just gets what she wants because that was the weight and the status that Ma brought. You couldn't upset Ma, because if you got Ma to lay down an unbelievable set of tracks, you were about to make a lot of money. And like she says, I don't need to be in Chicago. I would prefer to be down south where I'm more comfortable on my tour, but I'm here, so you better do what I ask. And it is just pure gold from Davis start to finish. And then when you finally start to build to her and Chad being in the same room at the same time, I mean, everything that Levy is talking about without Ma, knowing who Ma is, when they get into the same room, oh, it's magic. It is absolute magic. And to watch the two of them navigate being in the same place and how that plays, it's just absolutely wonderful. But this is a movie that is full of performances. The main part of this cast, besides these two, of course, is the band. And the band is fantastic because the band is where Chad is, and the band is who Chad is playing off of. And the conversations and the perspectives that the rest of the band add into that story add a lot of layers to what's going on with Levy and just the situation and story in general. And you get absolutely phenomenal performances from Coleman Domingo, who plays Cutler. He's kind of like the leader of the band and constantly is the one that's trying to put Levy in check. Like, Levy, this is Ma's band. We do things this way. We do things this way. I know you want to do this, but this is what Ma's going to want. And watching him interact with both, Levy and Ma and the rest of the band is a lot of fun. And Domingo, he has that presence. It's just that presence that doesn't impact or affect Levy the way Ma does. Almost like the father, where it's like, I know what you're saying, Dad, but like, I'm going to go do oh shit, Mom's home. What do you want me to do, Ma? Like, that's the kind of vibe that I get coming from Cutler, and I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. Glenn Turman, one of the all-time greats. I love anytime he pops up in something, but he plays Toledo, the piano player, and same thing. One of those things where he brings a more subtle, approach to that character, because there's only so much room for the big personalities to live, and Toledo is not one of those big personalities, but when he speaks, when he finally does hit things, really, really poignant. And how his story ties into Levy's and the way the movie ends up resolving itself as it goes along, really, really enjoyed, and really, really rock solid performance from Turman. And then lastly, we have Michael Potts, who plays Slow Drag, your bassist. Very little from him. I like where he pops in and some of the things that he adds, but he's more like, the guy sprinkling the salt on at the end, And then lastly, we have Taylor Page, who plays Dusty May. She is one of Ma's like backup dancer singers. And like you see a few of them when she performs in this tent at the beginning, like on her tour. She's the only one that accompanies Ma to the recording session. And where she falls in this movie, specifically for Levy and Ma Rainey, it's very interesting. And it's a subtle performance, but one that I think Paige really knocks out because of that position that character is put in the movie between Ma and Levy. And certainly is a driving element to some of the dramatic moments in the movie. And I liked the way that she plays in, again, like the rest of the supporting cast. They play in perfect ways to really make these two people shine in ways that are just, I would be shocked, honestly. I guess not shocked, but like I would be shocked if they don't get nominated. We'll say that, and I think they're definite contenders to win. And like I said, this movie it's all about the performances. I do think that George C. Wolfe does a good job adapting, Wilson's material. I think he pays homage and tribute to stage plays, the way that he kind of sets up and lives kind of in two locations most of the movie. But just the way that he is able to build the tension between Ma and Levy separately, so that when they come together, you get this kind of collision that you're like, I can't wait to see what happens. And the way that he just allows the movie to play based on what these performances are. Like, he really lets these two performances shine and breathe and have the space to be big and shows them in big ways. And considering he's in these small spaces, some of the things he does, there's a door in the rehearsal room. Love what that has to do with the movie. And what that means for Levy's character and how that plays and just the way that he kind of layers things. And while it doesn't make my top 10, that doesn't mean that Wolfe doesn't do an excellent job and doesn't execute this thing perfectly. Like, he makes sure it hits every spot it needs to hit. And the utilization of music and utilizing, those sounds to develop the score that's underneath this whole thing, it really, really works. And I love what he does with it and the fact that it produces these two performances. And I think the way he handles those characters and makes them come to life on screen. Really, really good stuff from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Highly, highly recommend it, especially if you were a fan of Viola Davis or Chad Boseman, or just a fan of big-time performances. And it's a tight, really solid movie. And like I said, definitely got to make sure you go check it out. So there you go, man. Those are all my non-spoiler thoughts on Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Two powerhouse performances that will get you excited, and then also, because it's Chad, you're gonna feel some emotion, and that character brings a lot of emotional weight and a lot of emotional punches in this movie, and it's a perfect storm for something that I just sat here at the end where I was streaming down my face, clapping. It does give, in the sense of watching a movie at home, that feeling of watching a performance. I found myself wanting to clap or cheer or get to the end I was in a theater, and it was cool to kind of see that captured in a way that played on the screen that made me think I was watching something on stage. It was awesome. I love Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. The question is, did you? Have you checked out Ma Rainey's Black Bottom? What do you think about these two performances? Do you think that they have Oscars written on them? Are they the career bests for these two? Where do they land? It's hard to judge, right? They've both done so many good things, but they certainly would be toward the top of individual performances. So let me know where those land. How does the movie land? Did you think Wolfe did a good job, amplifying the story of Ma Rainey, and kind of making us connect with somebody that we don't know that much about? How do you think he just handled delivering this bad boy? If you haven't seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, are you intrigued? Are you enticed? Have we made you want to see it? Anything you're thinking, good, bad, indifferent, about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom goes down at the bottom down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man and the rest of the C-Maniacs as we approach 2021, boom, jump over there. You can join C-Maniac Nation by hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell, and until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I am signing off. Peace.
Well, as I live and breathe, you're still here? Check out a video like this one, or this one, and hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sit Down.